Welcome to One Slot. I'm Felicity Ezewike. African cities grapple with substantial challenges. One of them is generating revenue for urban development and infrastructure. Today, we're exploring innovative ways for African cities to raise revenue from land, and our conversation is inspired by the unique land lease system of Hong Kong. A research by Astrid R N Haas, published in a conversation, highlights how Hong Kong's approach has generated significant revenue for public infrastructure and services. We will discuss her findings about Hong Kong's land lease system in contrast to what we have in Africa. Joining us is real estate expert Dr. Kolade Adepoju, who will help with curating insights on how land lease system works and its potential application in Africa. We'll discuss the challenges and opportunities of adapting not just the Hong Kong model, but other models to raise better revenue from land in African city and what it could mean for urban development and infrastructure. Thank you very much for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you for having me. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Can you tell us about this land lease system? What can you tell us about that?
Okay, so land lease system is like you've said in your introduction, is a way of not outrightly selling the land, giving a land to an individual and organization to generate revenue for, well, we say government, but not necessarily government, because an individual can also, or parastatals can also do land lease, so far they have the land. So the idea of land lease is that you have this place temporarily, you pay me for so time, and then you renew it instead of outright sale,
Ownership.
whereby you don't come back. You can decide not to come back, but if you're on a land lease, you have to come back, because the idea of it is to generate revenue every time. Maybe the lease can be for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 70 years. But the idea is you have to still come back for the renewal of the lease. And of course, the renewal will definitely means that money will come back to whoever leased it to you. So that is how the system works in the layman's language.
Is it different from what we operate in Africa? Because there seem to be some, expectations that what is practiced in Hong Kong is a little more elevated in terms of getting them better revenue from land. The understanding generally, from the layman's perspective, is that once you buy land, you're set for life. Is that what we practice in Africa?
Well, not, we can't say Africa, because Africa is, we have like 50-something countries, but let's look at Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and some other countries that are doing well. If you check in Africa today, the first four countries that are doing well in real estate is, I think, Kenya, then South Africa, then Ghana, then Nigeria, which is the fourth. So let me use them as an example. Now, what we do, it's mixed. It's mixed actually, because in Nigeria, for example, we are used to buying land, owning land, and as a Nigerian, you just want to buy the land and own it, which has its own pros and has its own cons. But I got to know more about this lease when the last time I was in France, because any country I go to, I try to do research about how their real estate does, and I realized that in what's it called, even when you are dead, you pay rent for your burial ground in France. So, and what that does is, it's not that maybe they are too harsh. It's just a way to get money in.
Revenue.
Because I let me use Ibadan as an example. Your state has a whole lot of land. Ogun State has a whole lot of land, and you are not really utilizing this. Because if you have that kind of thing, it's a very solid and a very tangible asset that you can, if you can maximize, can give you whatever revenue you want to get. You understand? Dubai has just, the whole of Dubai is just maybe 40 kilometers square. Not that big. It's not even up to an area in Nigeria. But you see how they utilize it.
Okay, before we go to the generals of it, I want you to give us a distinct, the benefit of the land lease and land ownership. We could use Nigeria, for instance, and just use it as for viewers that are watching to get a better grasp of, and myself as well, to understand why is land lease better than land ownership?
Okay. I will not say land lease is better than land ownership. Okay. If I want to say land lease is better, I will say it to the part of the government. But you know, we are dealing with government and individual here. And individual want to own the land forever. But government want to have a bite of it. That's why they do the lease. So let me use a government parastatal as an example. Let me use Nigerian Railways. Nigerian Railways, on their land, they have up to 999 years lease on it. And then, so what they do is, which is gazetted, which is titled, what they do is that you go to them, this is your land, I need these 13 acres of your land. I need it. They will tell you, we can't release it for you for 100 years. We can give it for 50 years or 75 years. What that does is that, well, for a company that is buying from, that kind of parastatal or individual, you are sure that because they have 999 years on it, nothing can change that 999 years. It gives you, in a way, sort of comfort, because we know that CFO, every governor in every state can even revoke a CFO, because you have the right to do that. So I'm merging it together so that we will not take so. So for land lease, if I'm talking from the aspect of the government, it makes more sense. You always come back. We always get revenue. For the part of the individual too, when you're looking about the individual, is that most of the time people think about the years. CFO, you have 999 years on it. So if I buy a CFO land, I know that at least I will use it till I die. You understand? And I can pass it, because in this part of the world, most of us invest in real estate because we can transfer it. You understand? So I think in that regard, some would prefer buying outright because they want to transfer it. That doesn't mean that that system is not also in place, because after 99, even if you have a CFO or whatever year, you have to also renew it.
Okay, let me get this straight. If you buy a land, for instance, and it's for 100 years or 50 years, let me not say 100 years, 50 years. So if you even say, I inherited a house from my father, and that's like another 10 years left, and in my time, maybe I die before just about that 10 years, and then there is an issue about the renewal. How will the family of the deceased, will they lose the land outrightly if they don't have the funding to renew it? I just want to understand.
So funding is even not the first thing we think about here. What we think about is, if you get a lease from government, first of all, you must make sure that the documentation is tight. The second of all is that if the instance you gave now, let's say A buys the land and A is dead and they pass it to B, which was alive when they passed it to B, was there a document that shows that this land has been transferred to B? And when B dies, I hope that before B dies, he has maybe a sort of maybe a will or something to show that this belongs to me. And that's why we have next of kin. You understand? So the next of kin, when the B leaves, the next of kin can come into play and say, okay, yeah, I want to renew this because this land. And also, don't forget, not every lease is renewable. We have to know that. There's some lease that is not renewable. So you have to ask yourself a question. The lease you have, is it renewable? That clause has to be there, that is it renewable? Because if it's not renewable, you can go there and they tell you that we are not renewing this thing.
Okay, so we've been able to establish that land lease is more beneficial for the government in terms of generating revenue.
Yes.
So what is the practice in most of Africa? Is this land lease being implemented by government, or we have a staggered system where in some instance, like you said, you have the lease and then you have, and how is this impacting revenue generation on the aspect of the government now? Because that's why we're having this conversation. How does it impact the revenue generation?
Okay, so what we practice in Nigeria, or let me say Africa as a whole, because I'm familiar with some countries, is not really land lease. Even though there's an act that says that all the land belongs to the government. So is in a way, so even if you say you have the land forever, if the government needs the land,
you can take it from you.
For public use. But if the land needs it, if the government needs it, they take it. So, but what we practice right now is, you buy the land, you own the land. There are different ways you can have that. There's freehold, there's cession, there's all manner. But basically, for the government, what we do right now is even the documentation is not really. I won't call it lease. It's not lease. If you buy a land, you do your documentation. You can. In fact, it's because we are in Lagos or some areas. In some states, they don't even do what they say of food. They don't even know anything about it. They just buy the land. They have their deed as long as they want to have it. As long as, so you go to some area, even in Lagos, there's some areas that the only thing they have is deed of assignment. And nobody is disturbing them because they believe that they have it forever. But if it's a matter of lease, although, well, even if you are not doing lease, you call it, they pay ground rent in Nigeria. In Lagos, you have to pay your land use charge. So, well, maybe
does that generate enough? Or rather, does it generate a substantial amount to...
Yeah, they are trying. It is not. I feel that it's not, because many people don't even pay. You will be surprised that people are owing land rent in Ikoyi, in Via. You will be amazed.
Is there no way that government can, let's stay with Nigeria for
right?
Yes, automate it, or a penalty for not paying it, because this is how part of how government generate funds to create infrastructure and make our lives easier.
Yeah, there is penalty for it, but at the same time, I feel that most of our problem in this part of the world is that we know the solution, but we are shying away from it. Now, we should make sure that, by the time you discourage interface with individual, why can't we automate this? Why can't we embrace technology in this? I know some states are really working hard to make sure that we all these things, we embrace technology, but I think we can do it faster. Some of these things, for example, do you know, if you want to do, okay, so before you even have, you pay land use, you have to have a building on it, right? The process of having that building on it alone is a whole lot. So I think the government can do better, because they will make more. It's just like garbage in, garbage out. If you invest into this thing, of course, for example, now, if Lagos State is automated, and if you don't pay your your land use, it affects your credit score. It affects many things. It shows in your so you will not want to even have that.
I think that's a whole lot of different conversation, because we have different biometric system. We have driver's license, we have BVN, so which one are we going to use to automate these? But that's another conversation.
I think they're working on NIN. They are trying to do something with NIN. Maybe
I hope we see it in our lifetime. But there's something you said earlier that I want you to, because the idea is, how can Africa better generate revenue from land? You talked about government in Nigeria, for instance, taking ownership of land. They own the land. So when they need it for public use, they take it back. It doesn't matter what you've built there or whatever. So how does that impact on those who wish to invest, knowing that there is no guarantee per se? The government can wake up one day and say, we want to use this place to build a sports stadium, so you have to vacate. Are there protection for these individuals who have this? Because, if investor is concerned about, the durability of the agreement that I'm getting a land for use for my business.
Okay, so, well, even though the government has the overriding power to say, for overriding public use, we need this place, they won't just come and just take their land. There are also process to that. Yeah. That is why it's also very good to make sure that whatever land you are buying or property you are buying, it is titled. CFO, there are other titles. I don't want to go deep into that, but make sure that you have a title document to your land. If the government also, that is why you also need to do verification to be sure that this property we are talking about and buying, there is no future plan for it. Because if there's a future plan for it and you build on it, government does not. In fact, you are already an illegal occupant. You understand? So there are process. Government will not just wake up. Make sure investors here. Nigeria is, like I told you, we have over 50 countries in the world. Nigeria is between number 3 or number 4 best place to invest in real estate. And this is data that is out there. So Ghana is there, Kenya is there, South Africa is there. So if you're talking about Nigeria today, it doesn't mean that Nigeria will just wake up and our government will just wake up and say, okay, maybe the governor or the governor of Lagos will just wake up and say, because I'm the chief executive of this state, I need your land. And you have your title and everything. So there are process to it.
Okay. We've been talking generally. I want you to, Africa and all of that. Let's break it down to Nigeria. I'm sure anybody listening will be able to, adapt it to whatever suits them. How is government in Nigeria making money, making revenue, sustainable revenue from land? Because we know people in real estate like yourself, you are smiling to the bank every day. We know that yes, we see all the, because there's almost every corner you look, there is some estate springing up here and there. So I'm talking, that is not for the real estate moguls. I'm talking about government. How is government in Nigeria generating revenue sustainably from land?
I think the question you asked, they are still not maximizing as they should. Because
before we talk about maximizing, could you talk about how?
Well, basically land use. They charge you for you have to pay something every year for their land. That's basic. Maybe some other petty,
like the CFO you talked about.
The CFO, you do documentations, all those things. Those ones are. If for CFO now, you do your documentation once in maybe, for example, maybe 99 years. You just do it once. It's not every month. It's not every year.
Okay.
But for land use, you pay it every year. You have to pay something to the government.
Okay, that's the one I was actually
and it's not, and it's also not every state that is also doing that. You understand?
Okay. So let's explore that part of the conversation and talk about. You talked about automation to ensure that people pay these dues, but what would encourage people, just like taxes, what will encourage people to make this payment as at when due? How can government encourage them to do that?
So I always think, I don't know, maybe I will use this opportunity, maybe somebody will hear it and pick it. I always ask myself a question that why is it that because a place is just coming up, infrastructures are not there? So I have an idea. I think it's something that we can imbibe. And they may have exploit it and maybe it's not working. You understand? I noticed that when I travel out of the country, even if you are driving 5, 6, 7 hours into what you will be seeing is farm here, farm there. The roads are good. There's electrification. There's all those things there. One of the things I think government can do that can make them a very chunk of money, very good money, is in this kind of place that are coming up, why not put all the infrastructures there? Put everything everybody needs it. And then maybe
you must be living in El Dorado. Because it is even the cities that we have, we don't even have the amenities. And then you're talking about areas that are yet to be developed.
So I'm just saying that because if we should also give kudos to the real estate developers that are doing it right. We should give kudos to them because really, if one of the things that makes Lagos State what it is today is real estate developers, because they keep developing, they keep going over the board to make sure that this is center of excellence. But I feel that if all this, you will get money because as a government, you have a law into your hands. You can tell them that if you are buying this region, you pay us 20 million for the infrastructure we've put into place. Wherever you are, whether you buy 30 million, you buy 1 million, it doesn't concern us. Then you can then maybe make it easy for them. Okay, because your property, you build it for 2 years, you can give you a payment plan stuff. And then you know that the infrastructure, what that does is that it makes the place develop faster. Then when people come, they don't have any. Why I said that is because many people they don't want to even pay the land use because what's in it for them? The roads are bad. They don't when rain falls, there's a problem. Everybody has to be swimming. A lot of things. But if this thing has been planned properly, and you see, the best way to plan a city or any area is when it is not developed yet. so that you can plan all the things, the drainages, the road network, the electrification, you plan everything. And by that time, when people are coming in, they are eager to pay. They are eager to pay. So I think I think we have local government have autonomy. I think they can also look into that. And then they will, I'm telling you, you will definitely make your money back. Well, it may not be immediately, but you will get it back better.
So, aside from the land use, is there any other way that, because one thing is to ask, very great idea, on paper it's great, and if applied it will benefit us in the long term, but it's obvious we don't have, unfortunately, we don't have politicians who seem to think that far ahead. So what would be the kind of, if we do have a government that is looking to better improve revenue from land, what would be the kind of advice you would be given for them to, make a headway with that, get better revenue?
From land?
Yes.
There are many ways you can. There are many ways you can make money from land. Aside from land, you charge. You can provide some amenities, and then tax it. For example, this is a technology age. Why can't we have? Imagine I'm living in a place and government provide me internet services. There's a way that it can be done, and you tell me that I pay a subscription. All these things, I look at it that government, yes, they are in the business of making policies, but that doesn't stop them from also creating some ideas, having people that think and create ideas. You understand? But for example, there was a time whereby we don't even know what is borehole in this country, whereby you pay government to get that for water. And you also understand that everything you really want to do in this part of this world, you need the land. Everything. You can't, there's nobody, no matter how much you say you want to go, you need land. Even if you want to go 300 meter high, you still need the land to be. So if I just feel that if the government can think deeper and they can really want to increase the channels. There are many channels. As the technology is growing, there are many channels. For example, now one of the things that I've seen also out there is EV charging points. Of course, we don't even have much of EV cars in Nigeria. But over there are a lot of EV charging points whereby you could, and government gets paid for it.
I think you're going back to, the government putting, if we have some of this basic infrastructure, it actually spiral as a sort of revenue generation for the government. So the government should maybe explore the idea of ensuring that even rural communities have the basic to encourage, people to come and invest in them. Okay, so what would be one thing you would want to take away from the system as it currently operates in Nigeria when it comes to land use and real estate? What is that one practice that you wish we don't have because it hampers the revenue generation?
Everything is too complex. Just make everything easy.
What is the easy how?
So, for example, if I want to build in this country today, if you want to even do it right, it's more difficult for you to do it right than to do it the other way around. Now, so let me give you an example. There's a place we want to build some buildings, and I don't cut corners when it comes to anything like this. So I told my architect and my engineers, go and get approval for this. I can tell you what we wanted to build is just maybe 2-3 floors. And in that houses, we see a lot of 3-story buildings there. And we go there and they said, no, this cannot be approved here. We said also some people, they said those people did not come and collect approval. And the house, people are living there already. So it's more difficult to do things. And because of that, we have to hold on that project and look out for a better location that can be approved. Because we'll not go out. If we give them some money, we'll also do it the same way. So I think we should make everything easy. When many people don't want to even build in this part of the world because they just don't want the complexity. We don't need to make this thing complex. Let's make it easy. And you see how money will come in, how investment will come in. But by the time we are making it complex, people will just relax, because you also know that real estate is not the only place to to invest, even though it's one of the best places to invest because you can easily use it to hedge inflations. But it's not the only place to invest in.
Yeah, but I did hear you when you talked about, it's easier to do the wrong thing just to summarize, it's easier to do the wrong thing than the right thing.
Yeah.
So government must help to ease the bureaucracy around, investment and real estate. I guess that's a good place for us to leave the conversation today. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
All right. All right. Well, we'll go on a short break now. And when we come back, we'll be taking on the Mpox global health emergency as declared by WHO. What do you need to know? Stay with us.